It was great to hear these historical talks about femtosecond lasers. Now let's talk about the future, adding tissue. So I want to guide you a little bit through where we are with tissue addition technology, and I'm happy to announce we just closed the Series B funding of 25 million to bring the product to the European market and to the US. So what do patients want? And we actually did end consumer questionnaires and asked them what's hindering you from getting a refractive procedure. And a lot of patients are actually afraid of, because the eye keeps on changing, they are aware of the keep of changing, and they want to have a solution that allows them to actually adjust while the eye might change. So a removal procedure that gives them excellent vision at all distances and that is safe is a big concern for the patients. So actually for them it's very attractive to say, well, I'm adding something rather than removing what we're doing with LASIK or with lenticle extraction. The procedure, it's very simple. So that's kind of the surgeon expectation, having a simple procedure. This is a presbyopia lenticle centered on the center of the pupil. You put the lenticle there and you break up the liquid film and that's it. In our clinical trials, we kind of got it to about 5 to 6 procedures an hour. It's done under a standard LASIK flap. We're working on a pocket solution. What makes it commercial viable is we actually processing human donor tissue not suitable for a fresh tissue transplant. We're kind of getting for presbyopia about 100 lenticles out of one cornea, so it makes it cost efficient. And we're using laser shape technology to get the precision for the lenticles for implantation. Now, using tissue for refractive procedure is not a new idea, as you're all aware of. In the 50s and 80s, they tried with epikeratofakia, but they couldn't get the precision right, but they got the safety. Then we had all the history of corneal inlays with all sorts of synthetics, and we all learned on the hard way that didn't go well. And now with Allotex, we're actually combining the precision of synthetics with human donor tissue, with material that is used to everyday transplant. Is it safe? Big question is what's happening on long term. So I'm happy to share with you our 4 years follow-ups. And most of the concern is corneal clarity. As we're all aware of, the tissue, the corneal lenticles that were used made of synthetics caused long-term problems and corneal scarring and haze. So what we did was a prospective study on hyperobes, and the reason is that the tissue you're using is about 10 times thicker and more volume than what you use for the presbyopes. We implanted it in 28 eyes and had a follow-up now, reaching out to 5 years follow-up, and all corneas stayed clear. This is an example. On the left, you see the implant right after implantation. You can see a little bit the edge of the hyperopic implant, and after 3 years, 4 years, they get completely clear. It's actually hard to see them. And on the right side, you see what we know from synthetic implants. We haven't any single case where we saw this type of hazing or problems. On OCT is actually important. Initially, we had the idea, great, we can measure with great OCT systems, we can measure actually lenticle thickness, but the problem is that it's tissue implanted into tissue. There's no boundary. So we couldn't measure them because the OCT doesn't realize there's a difference. So it actually fully integrates into the cornea and doesn't create additional scattering. The only thing you can see is actually the flap interface. So we looked at corneal haze, as I mentioned, and we compared it to RVO. We included about 57 eyes that we had access to at that time point for hyperobes and presbyopes. And we had zero hazing either in the center or in the periphery. And if you compare that, what is the involvement of what was happening with revision optics, they had 75%. That was actually why they had a class 1 recall from the FDA and were taking off the market. So what is our first market entry? We're focusing on emmetropic presbyopes. At the moment, you have about 25,000 refractive procedures done for mainly monovision that is in the age category for early presbyopes. We have a patient pool of about 10 million patients that were created to be emmetropic presbyopes by LASIK over the last 20 years. And we have about a target pool of 135 million patients, potentially candidates for presbyopia surgery in the US and in Europe. Clinical results, we had on average a gain of about 5 lines in near vision. All patients had less than 20/40 near vision before surgery. 98% achieved better than 20/40 after the procedure. What's happening at 4 years? You can see here the untreated eye keeps on progressing and it's losing near vision. And that's what we're expecting also in the immediate part. The treated eye is losing a bit in distance vision over time, similar to what the untreated eye is doing. And you can see that intermediate near is pretty much stable and still kept improved. And the binocular vision still is excellent over all distances. And that's at the 4 years endpoint. How does it work? We pretty much do what most people would expect. We do extended depth of focus by increasing 4th and 6th order spherical aberration. You can expect a kind of a steepening of about 2.5 diopters in the center of the cornea and creating nice spherical aberrations in wavefront sensing. So the concept is we're extending depth of focus. So it's not a kind of monovision, and we're implanting in one eye. So if you look at the defocus curve on the untreated eye, at the treated defocus, the treated eye, you can see this increase of depth of focus. And binocular, we get this whole full range vision after the treatment at the 3 years endpoint. So what about removability? We had 3 cases in the studies we did on the multicenter European trials that have been removed. All cases went back to baseline. There was no corneal imprint, something we were used to know from synthetic inlays. And also, what is the surgeon's perspective? Actually, Arthur Cummins did a nice questionnaire on refractive surgeons. Have you used rainbow or presbyopia implants? It was about 65% said yes. Would you reuse them as a synthetic? No. But when we asked them, would you use an allograft for implant? 80% yes, absolutely. And I think with this compelling data, we will gain up to almost 100%. Thank you very much. I think we cover all distances. I think it's safe over a long period of time, and it can exchange if needed. Thank you.